Hi everyone, my name's Simon and welcome on the rendering teardown section. Today we're going to be doing something more regarding the basics of any images, so listen carefully because that's always good to hear. So as you can see, we're dealing with some sort of entrance to a famous restaurant, and in terms of framing, everything is quite interesting. We're dealing with like a proper frontal view, so there's nothing much to say about that, except that every time you're doing frontal views, you have to check that your verticals are vertical and that your horizontals are horizontal, which is not the case here, as you can see. And this is something that is, well, extremely easy to tweak in, well, 3ds Max or SketchUp or whatever software you're using. And well, you can even do it on Photoshop, but still just be careful with that. I think the main problem we have here is quite obvious, is that as you can see here, we do have, wait a second, we do have our sunshine right over the roof here. And the thing that is quite weird is that our scene, our entire scene here is lit up. So we even have like cast shadows there, 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 there. Anyway, so basically the main problem here is that there's no consistency or coherence between the sky and the way the scene is lit up. So you have to always be careful, especially because basically here we can see this is some sort of HDRI sky. So that means that we should have, well, 2 shadows, which is something you always want to avoid because it cannot really happen except if you have artificial lighting. So yeah, anyway, just be careful with this. Another thing that is a little bit problematic is the material here has some extremely strong reflection. So this is something you want to be careful with, because otherwise you won't be able to, like, the thing is, it would be interesting to actually see inside the building, which is not the case at the moment. So this is something that you want to correct. And also, like, we can sort of see inside of it, but we don't understand what's going on. So like the balance between refraction and reflection has to be a little bit tweaked here and fine-tuned in order to understand more what's going on inside. We can have a look at other couple of things here, which is going to be regarding texture as well, is that texturing is not that bad, although that the image is quite pixelated, but I guess it's just because it's a low resolution one. But we do have, there's a couple of things that are not working. This is okay. You might want to add some sort of a displacement on your bricks here in order to get something a little bit more refined. And the other thing is that there are some effects of tiling in some places here. So yeah, just something you want to be careful with. Besides that, in terms of animation, I quite like the way it's populated, and also I quite like the way that it's properly populated. And the fact that we're a little higher than eye level is not much of a problem, I guess. I don't think it's, well, it's a good way to be able to see here, but that's the thing, is like, this is completely burnt, so you might want to be a little bit careful as to what's happening inside of this as well. So you might want to add details in terms of modeling to just be more like detailed and have something more interesting to show than just the entrance, but also have this sort of like first plan, second plan, background, and etc. A couple of things that could be interesting to play with as well is like really simple tweak or trick is to use the stem tool, set it to this sort of a grass blade brush, and just always go on your on the grass here, so that you get not like this super neat junction, because this is not how it would happen. works especially quite well here. That way you can sort of create some sort of variation. So in just like a matter of seconds, you add up something that is quite interesting and sort of makes it looks a little bit more like grass actually. Here's too pixelated, so we cannot really see it, but as you can see, the difference is quite there, and it does make a difference in terms of perception of realism. So if you cannot like use some sort of like forest back or any other scattering program or software, you can still do it in Photoshop quite easily. A couple of things we're going to have a look at now is the overall contrast. So as I said earlier, the problem we do have is that first, well, the sky really doesn't match the image or the rest of the scene. So you would go with something, I would actually go with something much clearer than that, like not necessarily like a pure blue sky, but something less dramatic. So something more simple, and still we can sort of adjust our levels here, because as you can see, we do have like, it lacks a little bit of contrast. Everything is sort of grayish, and we just have this, but we're not even going to take it into account because you're supposed to change your sky when you're using HDRI. I mean, like when it looks like that. So we could sort of increase our level, so just like with an adjustment layer. And second thing that could be interesting to do also, because you can sort of see it, is that the image is quite saturated. If we put the adequate filter, we can see it even more, because this is some sort of wood, which cannot be this saturated at all, because the only way you can get saturation like this is when you're using like some sort of a natural colors, just bright red or bright orange or whatever, but not like wood or grass or whatever. So I would suggest first desaturating a little bit, and then adding a mask to sort of like, you can still keep the saturation on this part. So that's, the difference is quite noticeable, as you can see. It will be it for today. So this whole thing was really about basics. There's also one thing in terms of detail, which is, it's quite, the problem with detailing is that once you start to do details, which seems to be the case on this sort of window here and on this cladding here or here, is that you need to keep the same consistency throughout the whole image. So this sort of thing here is not really like, it really pops out as something that you don't even understand what's going on. The same with the tiles here. They are not really, like, you don't really get how it works and what kind of roofing we're using here. So that's something you have to be careful with. The level of detail you have has to be consistent throughout the whole image. So yeah, I guess that will be it. As you can see, it's where's my, oh, there we go. Whoops. There we go. There you go. So not much of a difference, but still there are quite things that could be, these are the main things I mean that could be changed in a matter of minutes in Photoshop, and then you have to just change the sky, whatever I said earlier. So yeah, that will be it for today. Hopefully you've learned some really basic stuff, but things that you need to have in mind all the time when you're doing your picture, and hopefully I'll see you around. See you guys, bye. Tonight,